Our talk today is supposed to be about, in a general title, let's call it the opera business. Since we are working here with singers primarily, and also with pianists, with opera singers mainly, or aspiring opera singers, many of whom, perhaps most of whom, are just at that stage where they are near the end of their studies and starting to look at how to proceed from here into the business of singing professionally. And of course, a very large part of the professional life of any classical singer is opera, in the opera business. So that's the main basic subject of our talk. And of course we have pianists here, and I'm going to be working with some pianists. So I have some things to say to some of the pianists, or to all of the pianists, regarding working with singers that I hope will be useful. And we have here our voice teacher, our first of two for this period, Jenny Drivala. And I will start by introducing her in the sense that we kind of discussed this, that I thought it would be very useful for her to tell us, and that includes me, because although we've been colleagues for very, very many years, by the time I met Jenny Drivala, she was already in a very successful career. I've had the pleasure of hearing her many times in many different roles. I don't even remember how many. The first time was in the US. Rigoletto. Do you remember?
Yes.
Connecticut. I didn't know you then, yet. But I think it's useful. I think it's a lesson, always, to learn how anybody that has had a successful career and gets into a career, how they did it, how they moved from being a student to being a professional. There are different, if you're a pianist, there are different routes that you probably take, the way the business works. If you're a singer, there are different routes, it's a different business in a way. I find it's always a lesson to find out how anybody that develops or developed, had and sustained a good career, how they started that, what they did in their beginnings, post-student, once they were well-educated and well-trained, because the real battle comes after that. How they were prepared, what they had to prepare, and what they find, because I think when we look back over the years, we say, yes, I was successful at this because I had done this and that, and I made this right move, or I was excelling in this, and it was the thing that got me started. So I will start by having Jenny tell us about how she got into the opera business. Everybody does it a different way, but there are lessons to be learned, I think, from everybody. Then I would like to take the floor after Jenny and say some things to the pianists and to the singers from my experience as a long-time accompanist. And then we're going to leave some time because we really think and hope that we'll have questions from people that we can answer. Okay, so first, Jenny.
Okay, before we move to this subject, there is another issue I would like to discuss with you. It came out on the table last night, but not everybody was there, and I think it's quite important. The question was, is a student of whatever instrument, voice or piano or whatever else, is it good for the student to have two teachers simultaneously? And the lady present at this point She said, I think it's good because I take 1, 2, 3, 4 things from one teacher and I take 4, 5, 6 from the other. I totally disagree with that. You have one teacher upon a time. It doesn't mean that the teacher you start working on your instrument, it's going to last and bring you to the end and make out of you an accomplished artist. This would be fantastic. Though most of the time it doesn't happen. You will have to change teacher in between. Though I completely, I do not advise that you work with 2 teachers simultaneously, because most of the time you're going to get so confused and you won't know is that way, is the other way. You say, why? Is the technique not one? Well, yes, the technique is one, but each one has a different approach. So you have a teacher, you have chosen him, you believe to him, you believe in what he can offer to you. On the other side, you must always be very critical and check yourself, your progress. You can see for yourself if you are advancing vocally or in your piano technique. And you can see that this teacher has still a lot to offer to you and he can bring you further. Or this teacher can bring you up to that point, and now that you need something else, which he's not in a position to offer, then this is the moment to think that now I'm going to change teacher and try to find somebody else. If you are happy with your teacher and you see yourself advancing and having good results, stick with this teacher. But have no, any hint to leave the teacher if you see that you are not advancing. For instance, I will tell you as an example my personal story. I started singing, learning singing when I was 15. I had a vocal teacher who was placing my voice, not bad I must say, thank God. But I was 15, 16, 17 years old, and she was having me singing heavy repertoire, Butterfly, Desdemona, and all this stuff. And she used to go around to the conservatory and say, yes, this girl has a lovely voice, but she hasn't got a high C. At my home, because also I was playing the piano, and I was very thirsty about opera, and I was constantly buying new spartiti and going through the spartiti and learning rows, I could sing a high F. So when I realized that this teacher was not able to understand that I had a voice who could sing high and help me to better this quality, I thought, okay, this teacher has nothing to offer to me. So I looked around and I have chosen another teacher who really gave me the possibility to develop my voice much better. So this is my advice, be very careful about that. Okay. Now, you are going to probably think, okay, and what about master classes, seminar, etc. We all have a teacher, and then we come here and we find other teachers that probably are telling us other things. This is another point that you have to be very, very careful. And I am careful myself as well as a teacher in a master class or a seminar. You must realize that when I hear you 1 or 2 times and have 1 or 2 sessions with you, there is no way that I can change your vocal technique if it's needed. I can make only observations and say, watch, if you are doing this thing, you should find a way to amend, to better. I can even offer an advice and say, I would do it like this, though I cannot really intrude in your technique at that moment. It is not right, because if somebody has faults, and most of us, even professional singers, nobody is perfect. Carlos was not perfect, I am not perfect, nobody is. We all have some qualities, but we also have things that they are not perfectly in place, and we are trying to the end of our life, professional life, to make them better. I can offer an advice, but I cannot correct it in 2 or 3 or even 4 sessions. It's up to you to filter what the teacher says, find out if he is right, And then check with your teacher. Is your teacher in the position to help you to better this thing, or is he not? For instance, I have a student who has a fantastic voice. I found her, she was already quite advanced, but she had a wobbling. I'm trying very, very hard for 3 years to better this wobbling. She tries, she forgets, she's lazy. Once she does it, once she doesn't. This is not my fault. So when this girl goes to a teacher and says, oh, but you have a wobbling, and change a teacher, there it's not my fault. It's the fault of the student who's not applying herself. Because when she's applying, she's doing the right thing. Who's not applying herself as much as she should do in order to better herself. If I were saying nothing about the wobbling, then she would have every right to say, this teacher is not for me, she's not helping me, she's not getting me better, so I must find somebody else who's going to get me better. Be also quite aware that sometimes the teachers in master classes and seminars, who usually are important artists, okay? It doesn't mean that an important artist can always make a very good teacher. And it doesn't mean that a good teacher who has not been an important artist is not that good a teacher. He might be very, very good, even if he hasn't been a great artist. Be so aware that sometimes important artists consider some things self-understood and might be sometimes insulting students and not having the right approach. In that case, again, you should filter what they say. Do not take it completely for granted. Check it inside yourself and find out if it is right or not. Because I can also refer to several examples where people went to master classes and they were torn apart, and after that they were so disoriented they could not find themselves back. So be very, very careful, first of all, about the teachers. Now, let's go.
That's part of the beginning.
It's part of the beginning.
It's part of the beginning.
Also, be aware that you are, either as a pianist, as an artist generally, as a vocal artist, you are in a constant evolution and development. The moment the thought crosses on your mind, oh yes, I'm there, now I've got it, you are going to lose it the next day. And you are going to start descending about it. So always look towards up, because you must always develop and get better and better and better, and that never ends. It's always very good to have a teacher, the one who has brought you, let's say, to the final stage where you could go out and become a professional, and come back to this teacher, to this third ear, okay, outside of yours, for advice, but always filter advice. I'm very adamant into that. Sometimes people, they have weaknesses, and sometimes the teachers become very possessive of their students, and they want their students to become miniatures of themselves. This is not right. As teachers, because you are going to find yourself in that position as well in several years from now, we must find out what each person has of quality and what does he lack in his complex of artistry. And we have to guide him to develop the one and to amend and better the other. We must not try to make copies of ourselves as teachers. So you must be very careful, because you are going to find this kind of teaching educators a lot in your life, probably many of you have already this experience, which is not very good. Now, you have everything in place, at least most of it, and you're ready to go to enter the professional world. Auditions and competitions. Though be again careful, it doesn't mean that when you go to a competition, you must win it, otherwise you must commit suicide. This is not at all like that. it's a good, yeah, it's a good goal to say, okay, it's a good thing if I get into the finals. It doesn't matter if you get a prize or not. Sometimes you see first prizes and people who did not get a prize, and the public often wonders, but why this one was better and didn't get a prize and the other one didn't get. Never forget that things are subjective, unfortunately. Of course there are some objective things in the art, as in every sector of our life, but mainly they are subjective. I like Pavarotti, Manoli likes Domingo. It doesn't mean that they are both great artists, but I prefer this one because the other. The same thing happens whenever you go to a competition or into an audition. So go to competitions and think that if you get to the finals, it's already a very, very good achievement. If you get a prize, it's even better. But on the other hand, you will find several artists that have won competitions and they have never done anything. They won this competition and they stayed there. And others that they did not win competitions, they've done fantastic careers. The same thing, more or less, happens with the auditions. But the auditions are a very wild thing. It's a necessary evil. We cannot do without it. So we must have a light approach emotionally. That means, again, if we go to an audition and we are not taken, it doesn't mean we have to commit suicide. Several things might have been happening. They were looking for something quite specific, and although you're very good, you did not fit into that. Of course, I do need to mention that
conflicts of interest happen.
Of interest and people who have a better relationship to each one other, etc., might get into your way. And of course, my advice is to try to build your network with relationships, because it's very important. Though you must know that especially in this job, which means that is the instrumental player, either vocal or pianist or whatever, you must deliver the goods first. If you don't deliver the goods, you make as many relationships as you want, they won't help you. They will help you if you can't deliver the goods. That it's good to have people around you that are going to help you, to let you know somebody else, to refer about you, to give a reference, etc., etc. You understand what I mean? Now, going to the auditions. The important thing is to show with your first 2 pages, the whole line of course, but the first 2 pages, the possibilities of your voice. So, if you have a voice that has big range, you must choose an area which is going to show off the range of your voice. Though it is always better to go through the areas that they are well known. When you go for a general information audition, and not for a specific role. If you go for a specific role, and if they are looking for a soprano or a mezzo-soprano for Montezuma by Grau, of course you will find, you don't find the ground, find the arias, but you find some other areas of 18th century. But if you go for a general information, it's better to find out which area, could be only one area, could be 2 or could be 3, is going to be the one that they know well, and they are going to understand immediately what you can do. For instance, for myself, it was La Traviata, because it's an area that contains everything. It shows the range, it shows the agility, it shows the expression, it's all there. And it's of course a very, very well-known area. On the other side, of course, there is a possibility, for instance, let's say that we have a very special voice. We can sing Zerbinetta or Queen of the Night. They can sing also Liu or Butterfly. If they see that you have those 2 very, very different areas which belong to a different path in your repertoire, if you can do it well, okay? You may present yourself, let's say, with the heavier aria, and let them wonder if you sing it well, if you can sing also the higher aria. I would not advise the opposite. Of course, this is very rare, and I would say that one of the first things that you have to do as an aspirant opera singer is to decide as soon as possible, after you have finished your studies, your masters, your whatsoever, your opera studio, what is your repertoire? When you present yourself to an agent or to a theater, but maybe to an agent, you must have at least 5 full roles. It doesn't mean that you have sung them on stage, because you must be given the opportunity to sing them on stage. But you must know well the roles. You must have sung them with your piano, repetitor, all of it, and know that you can go to from the beginning to the end. Because singing only one aria or 2 arias from a role, it doesn't mean that you can sing the whole role. Okay, this is very important. So you start by choosing carefully your first 4 or 5 roles that are really good for you, and really good to start with. It doesn't mean that later on you are not going to advance and develop and add more roles. But this is a very, very important thing to start with when you go and pretend to be a professional opera singer. As I said, competitions are a good way to start, though do not count always on that, because, okay, when we have the Ateneo competition here, where they invite very important people, Peter Caldera usually is always there.
Competitions are very good exposure for singers. It's not the same for pianists. There's a difference.
No.
There's a different business at work. The piano field, unfortunately, has become pretty closed in by competitions. It's become so that practically careers are made only through competitions. Not only, but they have a much stronger hold on getting into the business. For singers, it's not quite the same. There are some large vocal competitions. Most singers I know that make a lot of money in competitions use it to further their career by other means, by having more lessons, or by, being able to have money to go to auditions, which is costly to fly around. And so it's a little different for singers, but competitions offer very good exposure. People hear you. Sometimes people from theaters come and they will pick, like Jenny said, very often someone they like that's not a winner. Happens very often in the vocal competitions. Did you do competitions as a young singer?
Yes, I did. I did 2 competitions. I won them both. And
before auditioning or after starting the audition scene? Or in the middle?
One was before, and then I finished my studies. And the other was after I had already done my debut. I don't feel really it helped me to get into the professional world. Of course, it was one more positive thing. Oh, she has won that one out of the competition. Well, mainly you do it by auditions. The first thing is to find an agent. The other thing is that there are a lot of small productions happening around in the world, in Europe mainly, in several countries, that they are for young singers. So you go there, you audition, let's put a Giovanni on for young singers. You go there, you audition, they take you, usually 2 or 3 casts, they put the production on, and there usually they invite people and they can hear you. And if you've done well, or if somebody needs a Donana or a Don Ottavio who was good at this production, might engage you, and this way get further and further. So you must look around for smaller productions. Of course, in big cities like London, etc. London is full of these smaller productions. So one has to be fast. It's a good thing. But if you are not, it's not the end of the world. You must know that in that case, as I was telling before to Susie, it's good to start looking around what are your roles, the roles you are aspiring, and start learning the roles even without having an engagement in front of you. This is going to be at some point very, very helpful to you, okay? Because if you know, let's say, if we take a bel canto role, if you know the main two arias, if you know the two duos, usually you have two duos, then it remains an ensemble. You look at it a little bit at the ensemble. You do not know exactly all the recitativi in between, but you have the main big musical parts. Then if you do have that, within 10 days or 15 days, you should be able to be ready to go to rehearsal. So you
I usually recommend to singers that they start learning roles at a certain point, entire roles, with music, that they can go through the whole thing correctly with the music in front of them. Not memorized necessarily, but that they know everything that the role has, they know where the difficult parts are, and they know it musically from beginning to end with music. Right?
And then you must also consider that when you go to do a production of a role for the first time, the little bits and pieces and knowing it by heart happens during the rehearsal time. Once you have sung the role, you've got it, and then you can go and do it in another production with 1 week or 10 days of rehearsal. But for the first rehearsal, for the first production, the first time you do a role, usually you learn it during the rehearsal. So if you are called, let's say, what role when you sing in Zerbinetta, for instance. If you are called to sing Zerbinetta in audition in 2 weeks, you will say, okay, I'm sorry, I cannot have it in 2 weeks. Can we make it a month? And this is not a crime. Nobody is going to try to have a life. But it's good to start studying Zerbinetta now without having a project for Zerbinetta.
However, I also do not recommend ever going to an audition that you are not prepared for, that you feel you cannot prepare for, or if you're not well. If your voice is not in good shape, don't go and say, I'm not well. It's happened too many times and they don't care. If your voice is not in decent shape, or, you have to learn to sing well even when you're not completely 100%. You can't be, every day is, Caruso said, the day I'm really well is the day I don't have to sing.
I've always said that as well.
But if you are in any more serious way unwell and your voice is not functioning, you have a cold or something like that, and you know it's not going to work for you, it does no good to go to an audition and say, I'm sorry, I'm not up to snuff today. They don't care. They'll say, well, sorry, come again another time when you are okay. The audition has been a waste of time.
So select your 3 to 5 roles, select your 4 to 5 arias that they are good audition arias, and when you get an audition, you will give them your CV, and this is the roles. I know it might be 5, it might be 7, 9, 10. And also the 5 arias. And when they say, okay, what do you prefer to sing, because that's what they say, you will select the aria that shows most of your possibilities. Okay. And then let them decide if they want to hear more or not.
My experience from many, many years of accompanying singers whom I've helped prepare for their auditions or watching them from their early stage, and some of them are now in full careers and in good careers over the years, is that also, again, unlike pianists might get their training in this way by going to 10 competitions, because by the 10th competition, you figured certain things out as a pianist. Okay, singers have to deal with a whole years, sometimes, of auditioning. You may do 20 auditions before you get anything, right? You learn along that process what works for you. There's no complete way of knowing ahead of time. You think this aria is great in your voice, and you're great for it. But somehow it doesn't come across that way, you don't get a response from it so well. You might get a better, you might find that it's another piece that people like you more in. And this you can only know by trying things out. It's true what Jenny said, for a singer you almost always have the first choice of what to sing. And it's crucial that that is something that works for you, that makes a very good impression. You will only actually know that after having done several auditions and you say, oh, this one always gets a good response. So that's your first number. It may not be what you think it is in the beginning. So that's very important for auditions. I think I will reiterate, because I see the repertoire that people are bringing me here. When you go out on auditions, for general auditions, stick mostly to stuff that is fairly standard repertoire. You may have one or two oddball things there to show that you have something unusual, but people want to have some kind of yardstick by which to judge you. If you take them something that they hardly or don't know, they're not going to be so interested. They're going to say, okay, fine, it sounded good, but now let me hear something that I know what I'm hearing and what I can judge. Very important. I think it's also very important for the singers to know that what is desired or required or interesting to those that are listening to you, whether it's agents or opera houses or sometimes conductors or other musicians that you want them to hear you, whether it's a singer that can get you somewhere or a pianist coach that has connections, whatever. You have to have some idea that there are cultural differences from place to place. And it's good to have some idea, professionally speaking, if you want to get ahead, of who the person is that you're singing for and what is the kind of thing that they'll be able to understand you in. I mean, if you're going to go if you're going to go to a medium-sized house in Italy, like Bologna, and take Wozzeck to them, you know, or even Arabella, who had Arabella, someone, they're going to say, oh, it's very impressive, but we don't do this here. Can I hear Lucia, please? You know.